there are no others who are going to be fulfilling the objectives that I see for this organization. I don't know of any. I would be interested in.
Yeah, I will send you some.
Okay. All right.
Any other comments or questions? Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I hate to be the bad guy, and I came here specifically out of concern. Unfortunately, I apologize for being this late. But my experience with these kinds of efforts has been uniformly negative. The assembly was the first flop.
Yep.
Okay, and the biggest and the most nightmarish one. The second was on a much more limited level, and you know, as 30 years ago, a much younger guy, working with only youth, and we couldn't get our acts together then. And it was even at that age, you know, late teens, early 20s in Philadelphia, and a repeat a few years later in New York, again on the youth level. So the resistance is massive. In principle, nobody could argue this. And the fact that you're trying to limit it to Southern California, if I understand, might simplify the processes. So I'm not too sanguine about the hopes of such an effort. The other thing, the only suggestion I would make that would hopefully be constructive would be that if you start the way I hear you proposing to start, I think that will be at the risk of being repetitive, non-starter, because it will come off to the organizations as being very presumptuous. Who is this guy putting together an outline and then handing it to me?
Well, that's
if
why
this is to have any hope of success, it seems to me that it will be a much harder task, perhaps, but it's going to take getting the initial buy-in and outright representational presence so that such an outline or goals can be constructed. Because if you were to go to someone, here it is, do you like it? Yeah, I'm willing to change it. It won't be received too well, I suspect. I don't know, as I said, I hate to be the bad guy, but this is what I see.
What I am agreeing with you, but what I am proposing is for you to sign with a note that I would change my mind after I see how everybody else is going to start from the beginning to negotiate what's to be included will take forever, and it's a total non-starter. There are too many iterations because there are 11 groups. You go to one, they change a dot, you got to get the approval of all the others, they change 2 dots, you got to get, and it becomes a process that is...
we have supercomputers that can do lots of fast iterations now, right? But just trying to be funny.
Yeah, but the whole point is, it has to start somewhere. It's not an easy job, and if this group, the volunteer group, is represented of the community, not just a segment of it, but generally all the elements, and they put their effort in it and put a document which may not be perfect. I am not guaranteeing you that it will be perfect, but if it's 90% acceptable, you leave the provision to revise this after the council is formed, and you put that in the Articles of Incorporation. It's part of the deal. You're signing, but you have the right to, or you reserve the right to change your mind or modify. So I think we're intelligent enough to have learned from the experiences of others over the years and structured this in such a way that will be more successful than others have. And I am not taking any pride of authorship. Please don't, for a moment, entertain that.
You don't have to do that for it to be perceived that way. That's the problem.
Yeah, it is.
That's a problem. But to get this group motivated and to roll up the sleeves and get behind this concept and work on it, maybe is not one person, not I, not Ago, but our community leaders. Maybe it will bit more effective than who are you to say this or approach, I hope.
With the election that happened for mayoral supervisory things, Glendale.
Yeah.
So this should be a hell of an incentive for all the organizations to come together and figure out what to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that comment.
Carl, you had a point?
My point is, it's absolutely clear that there needs to be some sort of a body to represent the Armenians in the diaspora. Specifically, let's talk about Southern California. However, we can't put the cart in front of the horse. I think first, before you think of a structure, among all these structures that we have to create another one, I think you need to have a meeting of the minds. I think first, before you declare that there is a structure here to be the father of all, I think what needs to be done is bring into a forum, create a forum, where some people discuss the issues of our community. And from the discussion of the issues, then maybe comes at a later point the need to create a council. But to start to declare that we're going to have a structure, I think is the wrong way of approaching. And
Well, we're not, but I mean, the idea is not that we are saying there is already a structure and now come join. We're saying that the structure will be representative of all the different groups, but then it will be created eventually by these different groups and representatives.
Okay, what I'm saying, though, is to have the people, some of the people, some intellectuals of the community, to bring into a forum.
Yes.
And let's list the problems of the community. What we have, what problems we have. Discussion of those issues.
That's exactly
And it's not going to happen in 1 year or 2 years. It's a long process.
Yes.
And it's not going. And it has to be the preparation of the people's mind. It has to be. It's a long process.
They have to buy in.
Otherwise, you are creating another structure, which is that's it.
Yeah, that's true. Now, but this is the idea. This is the first step, as I said in the beginning of my introduction. This is like a first step. We're just introducing this concept. Now, there might be many others that we will discuss later on. You know, ARPA will organize other forums, panels, discussions. We'll invite different groups, maybe just separately to have an intergroup discussion. So the idea is to prepare ground for as you said, for people to buy in the concept first, and then see what is the best approach.
Yeah. Well, these community leaders you're suggesting are the ones that ultimately will prepare the articles of incorporation. Is that right?
The articles of incorporation is when they decide about a structure.
Yeah.
I think way before that,
Fine.
There's a lot.
There's no time. We are not suggesting that this has to be tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it will take time.
It will take time, the necessary amount of time. But getting a group together of our community leaders is exactly what you are suggesting. And without any definite schedule, only an agenda to think out every variables, to consider every issue, if possible, as best as their ability. And after discussing all of this, put together the bylaws, the articles of incorporation, and proceed. It is the same as what you're suggesting, if I haven't been clear.
I go. Just to stir things up a bit, I would disagree with the notion that we need to do the brainstorming for several years to identify the problems and only after that to start doing bylaws. It has to be the simultaneous process because it's clear what the problem is. The problem is that the diaspora and the community is fragmented along partisan lines, along the party lines, etc. This is what the whole idea is, to overcome and to create the umbrella organization which will represent the